All right, let's dive right in. We're going to try and get a handle on a huge question today. What exactly makes a democracy developed? And to do that, we're going to look at the blueprint of one of the world's most fascinating and stable countries, Germany. So let's start with that question. What do we actually mean when we say developed democracy? Is it just about money? Is it about how old the country is? This is the core question we're going to unpack. And the answer, well, it's a lot more interesting than you might think.
Okay, first things first, we need to build a foundation here. And that means understanding this fundamental tension, this balancing act, that's right at the heart of all these political systems.
So here's the textbook definition, basically. You've got three key ingredients. 1, a long history of democratic government. 2, strong institutions. We're talking courts, parliaments, things that actually function. And 3, a high-powered economy, usually what we call post-industrial. Think countries like the US, the UK, Japan, and of course, our case study for today, Germany. Now, this is crucial. At the very core of every single developed democracy is this constant tug of war. On one side, you have the pole of individual freedom, civil liberties, free speech, a competitive market. And on the other side, you have this push for collective equality, things like social safety nets, regulations to make sure things are fair. And really, you can define any of these nations by how it chooses to balance these two incredibly powerful forces. But here's the thing. These systems are not frozen in time. Right now, all of them are facing this set of really powerful, universal pressures that are, frankly, testing their very foundations.
Just take a look at this list. Does any of this sound familiar? It should. We've got aging populations, straining healthcare systems. We have globalization causing real economic anxiety. Immigration is reshaping what it means to be from a certain country, which in turn feeds the rise of populism. And then you have these big, supranational groups like the EU, which makes some people feel like their own governments are losing control. These aren't just German problems or American problems. These are shared challenges hitting the entire developed world. Okay, so that's the theory. To see how all this stuff plays out in the real world, we're going to put one country under the microscope, Germany. Let's see how they actually built their unique model.
You really can't understand modern Germany without grappling with its incredibly turbulent history. I mean, look at this timeline. It's just sheer upheaval, from unification to a democracy that failed, to the absolute horror of Nazism, to being literally split in two by the Cold War. All of that history created this deep collective desire for one thing above all else: stability. And that single idea, that quest for stability, it shapes everything about Germany's politics and its economy today. So remember that question of freedom versus equality? Well, here's how Germany decided to answer it. They call it the social market economy. It's a system that absolutely embraces capitalism and competition. But, and this is a big but, it wraps it in a powerful social safety net with really strong protections for workers and pretty generous welfare policies. It's their attempt to get the best of both worlds. And if you want just one concept that perfectly shows this social market economy in action, this is it: co-determination. In Germany, for large companies, it is literally the law that workers elect their own representatives to sit on the board of directors, right there next to the shareholders. It's this powerful mechanism that's designed to force cooperation instead of confrontation between labor and capital. Pretty different, right? Okay, so let's move from the economic philosophy to the political machine itself. Let's see how this focus on stability and cooperation is physically built into the government structure. Now, here's something that often trips people up: the difference between Germany's chancellor and its president. This table makes it super simple. Think of it this way. The chancellor is the head of government, like a prime minister. They hold the real executive power. They're elected by parliament, and they run the country day to day. The president, on the other hand, is the head of state. It's a largely ceremonial, symbolic role meant to represent the nation itself. So how does that powerful chancellor get into office? It all comes down to Germany's electoral system, which is known as proportional representation. And the idea is actually pretty straightforward. If a political party gets, say, 30% of the national vote, it gets roughly 30% of the seats in parliament. It's designed to make sure that the parliament is a really accurate mirror of what the voters actually want. And this is the direct result of that system. You almost never, ever see one party with a clear majority of seats. Instead, what you get is a multi-party system with a whole bunch of significant players in the mix, from the big traditional parties to the Greens, the pro-business FDP, and the right-wing AfD. So if nobody has a majority, what happens next? Well, the inevitable outcome is a coalition government. Because no single party can govern by itself, they are forced to team up, to negotiate, and to compromise to build a stable majority. This whole process of building consensus, it isn't the exception in Germany. It's the absolute baked-in norm. It's a system designed for moderation and stability, not for wild, sudden swings in policy. All right, let's zoom back out for a minute. We've seen how the German model is designed, but how is it actually holding up against all those modern challenges we talked about at the beginning? Well, Germany is definitely grappling with its own versions of those universal pressures. It's trying to navigate a massive energy transition away from nuclear and coal. It's dealing with the huge social and political challenges of integrating a large migrant population. It's wrestling with its proper role in the European Union. And just like its neighbors, it's facing that demographic time bomb of an aging society. The German model is absolutely being put to the test. And that really brings us to the key takeaway here. This quote just nails it perfectly. These systems, whether we're talking about Germany or anywhere else, they are not static. They are living, breathing things that are constantly trying to adapt to a world that is changing faster than ever before.
Which leaves us with one last big question to think about. Is Germany's superstructured, consensus-based model a blueprint for other nations that are looking for stability in a really chaotic world? Or is it maybe a warning that all that complexity can make a country too slow to respond to the urgent challenges of our time? The answer to that question is going to define the future of democracy, not just in Germany, but for all of us.